Wow. Has it been a long time? Hi everyone, how's it going? For those of you who are new here, my name is Jacob Williams and I am a professional music producer and composer. You know, I was having a lot of different ideas and a lot of different things I was thinking about in terms of like how I could come back to doing YouTube content or just different ways that I could present information or provide some sort of value other than just listening to music and sort of giving it my 2 cents. And without getting too deep into the rabbit hole, we're just gonna dive right into why and what we're doing today. So the way I've been thinking about it is like, what value do I bring to the table? You know, it kind of hit me the other day that like, you know, we all have different perspectives on the same topics, right? Like putting tracks together or assembling music or even just listening to it, or what is so special about this art form that we like so much, which is music. And for me, I was just kind of like, I think my main perspective on this is just I work on a lot of music. Like I put together like a new intro video on my Fiverr page the other day, and I was like, I can actually say that I've done thousands of projects and I've worked with hundreds of bands and artists, and that I have over 10 years of experience in the music industry. And I was like, I think we need to start looking there. So today we're just going to talk about how a song is made. I know for some of you that might not be super interesting, but for some of you it might be. And the reason why I feel this way is because I've actually worked with a lot of artists that didn't even really know a whole lot about the song making process to begin with. That could have been like before we started working, that was sometimes after we started working, or even during the process. They're like, I didn't realize there was just so much that went into making songs. I have had the absolute honor of sort of, I guess, enlightening people in that regard, or I guess sort of showing them the process after just years of it sort of just being internalized in my brain. So I figured if I'm going to come back, I think that's a great place to start. And it kind of ties the gap between where we were and where we're going. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I, again, had some other ideas I was working on and just none of it was really sticking. I wasn't fully resonating with it. And I just thought, I mean, the channel name is Jake Produces. I'm just going to give you guys my 2 cents and my experience, and we're going to see where we end up. And I think a great place to start is,
where do songs come from?
It's not so much like a what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of equation when it comes to songs. Like it's sometimes a bit of a more abstract process or sort of complicated mess, as some would indicate. And the reason for that is songs can literally start from anything. You could have a bad day at work. You could be listening to a song that you really like and think, oh, what if I sang it this way? Or what if it sounded this way instead of this way? Or you might be like, what if this artist and this artist collabed with each other and made this kind of awesome musical Frankenstein? And the list goes on. It can go on for thousands of different options or ways that songs are put together. And we're going to start with what I like to call the spark. Take a shot, FPS. The reason why I call it that is because it's kind of like, I don't know, when you write something or when you make something that you resonate with emotionally so much, like the phrase catching lightning in a bottle often comes to mind, or often is said from multiple musicians or band members or producers like myself. And the reason why that phrase is chosen is because that's how it feels, right? Like when you do something so unique like that, like you're like, I just took exactly 100% how I'm feeling and I put it into audio in a way that I probably resonate with it the most, but maybe someone else could steal something from it, or maybe someone else could feel something similar from it. Maybe not 100%. They might feel it 100%, but that's quite rare. That's quite rare. And so that's why I like to call it the spark, because it could literally come from anything. I think some songs that I've worked on literally just started from like, I mean, looking outside like your bedroom window and just going, wow, that's a pretty sunrise. And then it just inspires a melody. It could literally start anywhere, but usually that's the first part of the songwriting process, or I should call it the song creation process. Next, we're going to talk about songwriting. Take a shot, FPS, yeah. Again, once you have that initial spark, it doesn't have to be complicated. It literally is just, I'm feeling a certain way and this is what I want to make. It's sometimes that simple. Oftentimes people get ideas for like whole arrangements in their heads, and we work on putting that together in a studio environment, and sometimes in a live environment too. Sometimes things are improvised into a great idea. These ideas, regardless of where they come from, are then taken into songwriting. Songwriting is probably one of the most understood phases of song creation, and the reason for that is, you know, you have the phrase singer songwriter. Songwriting is often what people think like, oh, you write songs, you make songs. So songwriting is where you take that spark and you put it to something. So if you are writing pop music, you might start with the chords. You might start with a melody, how you want your words sung or put to audio. And this is the songwriting phase, coming up with how many verses do we want? How many choruses do we want? What is a verse? What is a chorus? And that's usually what songwriting is doing all the mental games possible to get something shaped into something listenable. However, that phase doesn't last very long. Sometimes it does. Sometimes someone might be sitting on a song for a year. I've heard so many stories from artists saying that, hey, it took me like 2 years to get this to you. In very short terms, songwriting is where you take the simple and try to give it some sort of form, try to give it shape. The step after songwriting, and often at times during songwriting, but usually the step after, is where someone like me comes in. So production is a very big umbrella term, and we're going to keep it super simple for the sake of this video. Production is where you take your song, now that it has form, now that it has gone from a basic idea into something bigger, something that's got melodies, it's got chords. It might even have you playing guitar or piano on it in the pop sensible side of things. But once you have a basic demo going, you usually take it to someone like me to have it produced. Or oftentimes too, artists self-produce their own work. And there's benefits to both approaches, and we're going to cover those shortly after I explain whatever the heck production is. So I talked about it a lot in this video earlier on. Production almost takes this form of wearing like 6 different hats, but you're essentially a one-man band. You're essentially the person that does whatever you have to do to get this basic idea to sound full and to sound like a finished song. Sometimes that could be you playing every single instrument on the record for a vocalist, or that could be you just kind of covering the bases with a band performing most of the initial core tracks of the idea. You just kind of filling in all the like little side instruments like keyboards or little sound effects and stuff. Or you could just be there as the person that provides advice, or the person that sort of guides the entire process, adds to the structure, takes certain things away to hear how they sound, or gives the musicians advice on how to move forward with an idea if they're stuck. The producer does a lot. Sometimes you are a part of quite literally the entire process. There's often times where I'm working on stuff and I literally foresee the entire creation of a song from nothing, from absolutely nothing. Someone just comes to me and they're like, hey, I want to start singing, or hey, I want to start rapping, or hey, I've had these poetry lyrics in this notebook for like 10 years and I want to produce them into song. So there's just a lot that goes into it, really. It's more than just making beats. Oftentimes that's all it is. And sometimes it's more than just moving faders around, and you actually have to get quite musical with it. So there's a lot of hats that producers wear in the production phase. But the production phase, the entire goal is to take this basic song. Let's just say your song is a basic pop song with you playing guitar and singing the melodies, and you're just playing chords with it. My job would be to go, okay, what are your inspirations? How do you envision it sounding like when it's fully done? And how can we get it there? I might have to play drums on it. I might have to arrange those parts. I might have to play bass, guitar, strings, do some programming on a MIDI keyboard like the one you see right here behind me. It's a very hefty process, and it's very technical as well. There's really two main approaches. An artist can self-produce their work, or they can seek a producer to help. Usually self-production is pretty cool. That's what I do for my own personal music. You kind of have all the judgment calls in the room, so to speak, so you can go get as weird as you want, or you can get as simple and bare bones as you want with a song's creation. And then oftentimes, people do need help with structuring things out. They need another set of ears to sort of bounce ideas off of creatively. And I think that's one of the pros of outsourcing and going to someone who can oversee the entire process. It's way more dense and complicated than I can explain, but that is the next phase of the process. Next is the part of the song creation process that kind of gets forgotten about. It actually hasn't been as neglected in the modern age because we have so much exposure and so many ports of information just being flooded up into our face, so to speak. So it's like a lot more people that I meet now will be like, so is this going to be mixed and mastered at the end of this? Is this going to be mixed? You do mastering? I get a lot of these questions asked nowadays compared to back in the day. The difference between them, so this is a process that often goes hand in hand, but you can kind of view it like polishing the song. So let's say your song is no longer just you playing guitar and singing. Now it's got a full band behind it. It's got the bells and whistles programmed in. It's got synths. It's got little literal bells in the song. It's got like everything you could possibly want in it. It just needs like that extra 10 to 20% push to sound like it's ready for radio or Spotify, or to even just casually listen to in the background, or maybe your voice needs to be cleaned up or tuned, or the guitar you played on's a little dusty, so it needs to be polished with EQ and compression. Like, the list goes on, but essentially that's where mixing comes in, where you kind of glue everything together and make it so that everything sounds like it's being played together, or sometimes not together on purpose as a creative effect. This is where various effects are added and volumes are sort of adjusted to sort of make room for everything in the stereo space and the sonic space. Oftentimes mixing and mastering is referred to as audio engineering because you are quite literally playing with audio and engineering it to sound a certain way. You're shaving off all the loose ends, you're editing things, you're making it so that the bass and the kick drum don't argue with each other when they're both playing at once. There's a lot going on there, and producers like myself often have to take up this step as part of the process. Other times you might have one person producing your work and another person completely on their own being the audio engineer of the joint, or being that side of the collaboration process. There's no right or wrong answer, even like to a lot of this there is no like right way to create a song from scratch. What I will say is sometimes having that extra set of ears, like going and getting another audio engineer for the process, can really open things up. There's actually a song I produced by Rhea. It's called Living Without You, and I did the production and the instruments on that song. Rhea did the songwriting and the vocals, obviously. She went to outsource another audio engineer for it, and it came out a lot better than I could possibly do. So it's a wonderful work of art. It was awesome to just watch it go through all of the true steps of this process. Once something is fully glued together, as we like to say, and fully just intact, that's where mastering comes in. And mastering brings everything out. It compresses the song. It brings everything to life a bit more, I guess is the best way I could put it. The term that we like to throw around is brings it up to industry standards or industry levels. There's a lot of debate. There's a lot of people that say songs are too loud nowadays because that's just how people master. And so in order to stay competitive, there's this thing called the loudness war. In short, mastering makes your song just dynamically better, whether you want to master it quieter, whether you want to master it louder. The middle ground answer to this question is after your song is mixed and every sound is where you want it to be in the stereo space, you have it mastered so that it can sit alongside other songs in a playlist. It can sit, you can play your record front to back and everything sounds like it's level with each other. Mastering is often viewed as the final stage, but what I personally like to view as the final stage is whatever you do after it. I like to just view this as releasing. most people create music to release it. This isn't the case all the time. Sometimes people make songs and it's just for them to enjoy in their free time, or just to have somewhere as like a collection of work that they make creatively. I'd say this step is very simple. It's viewed as, okay, I'm releasing my music, I'm sharing it with the world, I'm putting it out there on streaming platforms, I'm putting myself out there and performing it on TikTok, or I'm performing it live, or I'm keeping it on a hard drive or on my phone for me to listen to at my leisure. And I think there's no right or wrong answer there, but that's what I personally view as the last step of the music creation process is, what do you do with it once it's finished? Sometimes you might even find that months later after releasing the song that there's things you could have done differently. There's things that maybe you feel differently about now that you've channeled that emotion or you've realized fully that spark. I find that I get into a bit of a creative frenzy after I release music or I help other artists put music out, and I want to keep chasing that. And I'm more of an album person, so that's just to my own detriment right there. But in all, there's no right or wrong way to create songs. Some people just dive straight into production, like myself. I don't really spend too much time in the songwriting phase because I'm more of a music person than a lyric person. Other people spend years in the songwriting phase, and more power to them. Some people just like mixing sounds together, and eventually they'll produce them up into full-blown orchestrations, or other times they'll just engineer a bunch of sounds together and that's their song. So there is really no right or wrong place to
start.
And I would say that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If there's anything else you want to sort of add to the conversation, feel free to leave it in a comment below, and maybe in the future we'll explore this process a bit deeper. Maybe we'll make something from scratch on the channel just to show you how the whole process is realized in full. Thank you guys for having me back, and have a great rest of your day.